Hello again. So I just got off work and thought I'd chime in. It's been a fairly long day. I think I've been at it about 9.5 hours, I guess. So, normal people schedule, I suppose. Starting to have a little bit of a flare-up right into this area. And I'm hoping that it calms down because I don't feel like having one. I do want to clarify something. Last time in my last video, I mentioned like mortality rates or mortality reasons in erythromelalgia, and I mentioned suicide, and I want to be crystal clear. I was not saying, if anyone took this the wrong way at all, that the number one cause of death for people with erythromelalgia is that I do not believe that is true or accurate in any way, shape, or form. I think that is, for people with EM, pass on for all manner of reasons. But as far as like an actual erythromelalgia causing death, the only known circumstance for that I know of and that I've read about is suicide. Erythromelalgia itself does not kill people, but the symptoms and living with the illness has caused people to take their own lives. But that is what I meant, and I just want to be real clear about it because I don't want people thinking that EM, all EM people are more likely to have that or anything else. That's just not true. So I hope that I've done an okay job of clearing that up. I'm learning as I go. I think we all are, and I think we all still have a lot to learn, and that's one of the reasons that I'm talking, live to people or on these recordings about my situation, is because there's not a tremendous amount of information yet, when it comes to EM or when it comes to anhidrosis, and when it comes to people who have both, there's even less. I think my doctor at Mayo said something along the lines of he's treated about 10-11 people who have anhidrosis, and out of those 10-11 people, only like 3 or 4 had total anhidrosis, and then out of those 3 or 4 that had total, there's just me who has the symptoms like this in my skin and in my face that would be considered more like erythromelalgia like symptoms, and then of course in my hands too, that technically are classified as erythromelalgia, not just the symptoms of it. So pretty much I got the warning then that, not the warning, but the update that anything that they do is considered experimental, and they just want me to be aware of it, that, they're using erythromelalgia treatments to treat anhidrosis symptoms on my face, and there's no guarantee that it's going to work. Just like there's no guarantee for most people with EM that the treatments are going to work. It's trial and error. And, like this stuff, this Metadrine or whatever it is, cream that I'm going to try, like so far the only I'm so sorry for the vocal pauses, like gabapentin, our friend, it's just, the brain doesn't go as fast as it used to, but the only study that I found, there's my word, study, wow, that's great, is like 12 people, like a 12-person study, and I think for 10 of them it had no negative results. 2 was like some high blood pressure. Not that they haven't used it on more than 12 people, but that was the study group that I found, so I'm sure other people have used it. Just not me, not yet, because I'm scared of rebound effect. Somebody wanted me to try, what was it, Mirvaso once, and as soon as I read rebound and that it could be like more intense than what you were already experiencing, I was like, no, I'm sorry, you keep that. Thank you, but no, not even going to try it because I can't handle more than I've been feeling. Like there was no way. At this point, I feel like I really do trust my doctor at Mayo, and he has great rapport with me and has been very understanding and empathetic and communicative, and I trust him to at least try it. And I think that's something. That which brings me to remember something else. During my first several months with this, I remember, going to doctor and doing the test after test after test. And I went to see my cardiologist because I have POTS too. Yay, more stuff. I think a lot of us do have some tachycardia or POTS issues, but I went to see him, and, he stopped and he looked at me and he was just like, I'm sorry. It's not fair. And it was the first thing that someone in the medical field had said to me that made me feel like they cared. And he was right. It's not fair, it's not fair. And I guess, boo-hoo, a lot of people can say that about their lives and stuff, but when you're in that kind of excruciating pain and you're going, like a drug addict searching for answers, you're just like, please fix me, please admit me, please, help me find out what's wrong with me, please stop this pain from happening, give me back my life, all these things. And these doctors are telling you, I can't help you, I don't know, let's try this test, try this cream, oh, that's not working, put it in the fridge, that'll help, and they don't seem to understand the excruciating nature of what you're going through. And then all of a sudden, this doctor's looking at me with this sincere, empathetic look on his face and just says, I'm so sorry. This is not fair. And it really moved me, and I really appreciated him just validating what I was going through, what I am going through, And that doesn't mean I have to cling to that thought that it's not fair, why me? But it is nice to have someone just show you that they see you, that they see what you're having to go through and deal with, because a lot of people do not understand. I tell you what, I have had so many people offer me suggestions, and I'm sure you have too. So many suggestions about what they think would fix it or what they think is wrong. Even when I've gone through, all this time of testing and all these doctors and all the medications and all the different things, somehow they're my knight in shining armor, one hit wonder answer, like it's gonna be like, hey, stop eating this and you're gonna be fine, or let's look at this diagnosis, I bet it's that, or and I know they're just trying to help, but it's like, what I'd really like? I'd like them to come over and have a cup of iced coffee, decaf, or just sit and talk with me, because I'm stuck here most of the time. Come see me, You don't necessarily have to call with a solution. You don't have to talk about my condition. You could just play a game of cards, So some of my friends or relatives or people that have wanted to offer their miracle cures, and I've heard of, I think, all of them. Sometimes it's a lot better, if you're a supportive person out there, just to be there. Not to forget that we're a person who needs social interaction and compassion and fun, and to be involved and to have purpose and all those things. And, sometimes we're very limited and we can't do the things we want, but you know, sometimes we can. So, you know, stay in touch, I think, is a big thing. But anyway, I now have more to say and more to tell, and I'm sure that, you know, I'll get around to it. I think in my last episode where I left off, we were talking about Johns Hopkins. So the trip there, man, my husband, amazing. Like, mad props to the man who can deal with me and be there with me through everything. And my kids, you know, I've got a 21-year-old and an 18-year-old, and man, they've watched me go through some stuff the last 20 months. And been super understanding, and I'm so thankful, you know, for them. My church helped to give funding, you know, for both trips that I made to Johns Hopkins and to the Mayo Clinic. You know, they helped provide funding for me to go. I mean, I started a GoFundMe. You know, it was humbling, but I put it out there. I mean, I was on short-term disability for work for a year, and 7 months of that I was fighting a short-term disability denial claim. It took me 7 months to finally get them to approve it. This flare is kicking in some. Emotions will flare you too. So you gotta be careful, especially if you're already having one. Right now it feels like the inside of my cheek is swollen some, and out here. So yeah, it is what it is. But anyway, I had a lot of people, a lot of family and people pitch in and help. You know, we drove from Tennessee to Maryland, and we went to Johns Hopkins, and I met with a dermatology group there, and you know, they looked at all my many pictures that I keep of my flares so that I can show them what's going on, and they showed it to another specialist that they have there that was more familiar with EM. And they gave me the tentative diagnosis of erythromelalgia. They said, I don't think this is rosacea. I think, you know, you need to be on like maybe metoprolol or something like that. And I was like, well, it's good because my cardiologist wants me to start something like that anyway. And I told him about the gabapentin that my doctor here had just started me on, and they were like, yeah, continue to try that. They made me a compounding cream of lidocaine, amitriptyline, and ketamine in a lipoderm base, and I had to order that and have it shipped down to Tennessee from their pharmacy. And so I did that, and I came back home, and slowly as I increased the gabapentin, added the metoprolol, and I started tapering down on some of the antihistamines and took off the doxycycline. I stopped the Metrogel. I stopped the sulfur washes. And as I did that, that is when the edge of the burn started to come off. And I could somewhat function, you know, a little bit more, which was hope. You know, it was definitely hope. And I tried the compounding cream. You know, I was nervous about it too, just like I am this new stuff. I spot tested it. It seemed like it helped sometimes, but then sometimes it just burned right through it. So it did help in some ways, but just not enough. I continued to go up on the gabapentin dosages, and I think I'd gotten up to like 300 milligrams 3 times a day by the time I made it to the Mayo Clinic in January of 2022. And I had gotten the referral from Johns Hopkins to go there to the Erythromelalgia Clinic. And it was a week trip. I had to go. I drove with my husband, you know, from Tennessee to Minnesota, and it was a long drive, and there's a lot of snow, and you know, hard to drive and not turn the heat on. So we were cold, and you know, we just did the best we could. But we made it up there. Traveling, like I think I mentioned earlier, is pretty hard on the flaring. Like I'd get there, and usually when I'd stop and get in the hotel, bam, flare, and it would just burn and burn and burn for hours, and terrible. It was that way in Maryland, and when I came home, and then when I got to Minnesota, it was like that, and when I came home, once I got to Minnesota, the cool thing is Mayo is like, the city is like built around the hospital, and so for those of you who haven't been to Mayo Clinic, it is pretty amazing. The city itself, you know, was freezing there, so I was super psyched to have skyways that you could walk through to get everywhere, and subways that were walkways underground that you could, you know, just walk through. So my hotel, when I parked there, we didn't leave the hotel again. We didn't get back in the car until we left, because we could just take our elevator down to the subway level and walk into the Mayo Clinic like that, and it was super cool. Yeah, that was nice. It helped keep my temperature from like going in and out, because as you guys know, winter, even though, hey, it's cold, yay, it's not always great, because it's such a temperature change for your skin. You know, it's like you go out and it's cold, you come in and it's hot, you know, you're having to readjust, and you know, the wind can have an effect, and it's just, you know, it's not ideal. You know, there's really fall is probably my best, like just even, and at dusk, you know, like I feel like a vampire, like, oh my gosh, you know. Anyway, but Mayo Clinic was cool. The tests were hard, especially the thermoregulatory sweat test, and we can talk more about that later. So I think that's probably all for me for now. I am about to go sit in front of a fan and chew on some ice nuggets and let this flare calm down, because I'm not feeling it. So, you know what? Much love to all of you who are going through this, and all your family members that are going through it. Yeah. Talk to you later.